I'm doing a project where I'm going to make this cylinder out of metal. The height of the cylinder is 40 centimeters and the radius is 6.5 centimeters. And I can use those dimensions to figure out how big a piece of metal I need to cut out in order to form the shape. The lateral area part of the cylinder will be made by rolling together a rectangular piece of metal, and it will have 40 centimeters, the height of the cylinder, as one of its dimensions, but the other dimension will be the circumference of the circle at the top and the bottom. Using the circumference of a circle formula, I'm able to calculate a circumference of 40.82 centimeters. Therefore, I need to be able to cut out a rectangular piece of metal that is 40 by 40.82 centimeters. I also need the circles for the top and the bottom, with the radius being 6.5 centimeters, or a diameter of double that, 13 centimeters. I want to make this project out of one of these three types of available sheet metal. We have aluminum, which comes in a piece 8 inches by 24 inches. We have galvanized steel, which comes in a piece 24 by 36 inches. And we have copper, which comes in a piece that is 12 by 30 inches. Which pieces of metal will be big enough to make the cylindrical shape? And how much will it cost? Here's my plan. It shows the rectangle I need with the height and the circumference as the length and width of the rectangle, and it also shows the circles that I need with the diameter of 13 centimeters. One thing I can do is calculate the total area of the cylinder using the total area of a cylinder formula, which gives me an area of 1898.13 centimeters squared. I can also do the area of a rectangle formula for each of the available pieces of metal. The aluminum gives me 192 inches squared. The galvanized steel gives me 864 inches squared. And the copper gives me 360 inches squared. I can tell already by looking at these areas that the aluminum sheet will not be big enough. The only way I can make this cylinder out of these available sheets of aluminum is if I buy more than one and end up piecing together scraps to make the cylinder. I don't want to piece together scraps. I want to be able to cut these pieces intact out of the available piece of sheet metal. So aluminum is not an option for the whole project. The aluminum sheet is big enough for the two circles though. So I have the option of making the lateral area of the cylinder out of one of the other metals, but making the top and the bottom, or one of them, out of aluminum. Next, I look at the copper. The copper sheet has a total area that is big enough to make the entire piece. But when I take my plan and I put it over the copper sheet so that I can see how I would be cutting it, it's clear that I cannot cut the rectangle from the copper piece. Again, I would have to piece together scraps in order to make the project. And I don't want to do that. So the copper, much like the aluminum, becomes an option only for making the circle for the top and or the bottom of the cylinder. That leaves only the galvanized steel. And we see an example of how just comparing total areas doesn't necessarily give us the best way of calculating which sheet of metal we need. When I put my outline of the plan above the galvanized steel, I can see that it is big enough to cut all the pieces, and in fact, I could make two of the cylinders from it. So the galvanized steel is going to be my choice. If I want to make two cylinders out of nothing but galvanized steel, it's going to cost me $35 to do so, or $17.50 per cylinder. The only other options are to make the lateral area out of the galvanized steel and make either the top or the bottom out of aluminum or copper, and that of course is going to be more expensive.